Hey all, and welcome to our next session at FormFest, Intelligent Admissions, Transforming the RFI and Enrollment Journey. I'm joined by Peter Bernardi of ElevateActual today, who's going to be presenting on today's session. Peter, I just got off of our last public sector session, so I'm just going to go ahead and toss things to you and get you started with the audience. Take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you, Josh. As mentioned, yes, we are here today to talk about intelligent admissions, what we're calling it, transforming the RFI and enrollment journey. It is everyone's favorite topic, top of funnel automation, because there are so many different ways to slice it, and it seems like no one really gets it the right way, at least in my opinion. So let's talk about it. Quick agenda. We'll do an introduction to myself, ElevateActual. Why does any of this matter? I have much more colloquial titles to slides. We don't like boring slides. We like fun slides. So why does any of this matter? How do we solve the problem? We'll go through it live, and then we'll talk and dig into some questions if we have time. As people who know me best know that I much prefer long story long instead of long story short. So we will see exactly where we end up on time and what questions we can get to. So, a little bit about me. Hi, everyone. Good to see some familiar faces and names in attendance here. I'm Peter Bernardi, most famously previously of FormAssembly. I was the 12th employee at FormAssembly, so love to stay connected with all my former colleagues, be part of fun events like FormFest every year, help out where I can, give presentations, talk about interesting topics. I will warn you, this is not your average FormAssembly presentation. We are doing some things, I wouldn't say that break the rules, but we are right at the edge of the rules, operating in some gray area, my favorite. At ElevateActual, I have run ElevateActual as CEO and co-founder since 2017, so coming up on 9 years. And we are higher education focused. We're a Salesforce implementation partner. We do higher ed pretty much only. We have a couple extra higher ed adjacent nonprofits, but we are a higher ed focused implementation firm, primarily on Education Cloud, Commerce Cloud, FormAssembly, of course, a few other ISV tools, but really your trusted experts to put it all together and make your system work for you. So why do we care about this? Why do we need to change RFIs? RFIs are RFIs. They're boring, right? First name, last name, phone, email, intended program, away you go. Most importantly, that traditional process loses a ton of data and context. You're capturing that basic information and like intended program like we're all used to, and that's about it. Like that's really it when it comes to basic RFI forms. More robust implementations probably include some Google Analytics tracking on the landing page that you're using, but I've seen some just naked FormAssembly forms out there. You're missing out on a ton of data, and most importantly, a ton of marketing attribution. Proper attribution is impossible if you don't have the full picture. You don't know what is working for you top of funnel. Is paid search actually paying off? Who knows? Normally it's just a total shot in the dark, an absolute guess, and enough people say, how'd you hear about us? Google, to validate any sort of spend that you're having there. So the approach that we're taking is to capture especially those UTM parameters, but this implementation of FormAssembly can be extended out in a number of different ways, which I'll touch on. But we really want to get a full picture on how those inquiries actually get to us. So including UTM, page source, any of those terms, any context, especially around marketing attribution, so we have a better idea of how these prospects are getting to us so we can better serve them as part of the admissions process. So that brings us to the intelligent RFI. How do we solve it? What is it anyways? The intelligent RFI process that we designed focuses on capturing that hidden data. So we have rich learner data. We can have enhanced personalization. This is where we get into some of that craziness that we're going to do in FormAssembly. The example that I'll show today, while robust, is actually pretty straightforward, and there are ways that I've been thinking about extending it even yesterday, today, this morning, as I was getting ready for this presentation, to think about how we could further extend and further personalize that data. Most importantly, it has to be scalable, right? Scalability is top of mind always. So we're using dynamic pre-filling, dynamic form content, So that way, no matter what the context of the page you're putting it on, cloning those forms out, putting those into different spots, different landing pages is way easier. We're not rebuilding forms. We're not remapping all sorts of different connectors and areas that we go into. I'll touch on the scalability and how we actually implement this as well during the live demo. But most importantly, seamless integration. I've always said the best part about FormAssembly is its integration to Salesforce. It's an intuitive form builder. It has the pre-fill connector that enables all of this. We're pulling directly from your learning catalog in Education Cloud, or learning courses, course offerings, same names in EDA, HEDA, any of those custom builds. So while this example is an Education Cloud, this is not an Education Cloud specific offering. This intelligent RFI Education Cloud is not a prerequisite. It makes it a lot easier since then we know where your data is going to be. And as anyone wants it, as I will always do, you can just have this form. I will just send it to you. I'll clone it into your environment. You can have it. You can play with it, ask me questions, all that good stuff. But the form, the real power of it is pulling live from Education Cloud, presenting a dynamic list of options, and then bringing all that data back into Salesforce. So let's take a look. Enough slides. We can look at slides all day forever, but everyone always wants to see it and have a much better idea of what we're actually doing. So off the top, we have 3 different versions of this. When approached with this implementation, this specifically is with the Southern California University of Health Sciences. They are moving off of TargetX into Education Cloud for recruitment. We have all of their lead capture, all their RFI forms, application for admission fully built out in FormAssembly. Obviously, there are other tools, especially native to Salesforce. There are a number of reasons why I think those tools fall flat, both from scalability, implementation. That's a whole different webinar, honestly. But focusing on the RFI, the core of it, and we'll show the complicated one here, which is going to be top level. So they're choosing a campus and then a degree type and then a program. So first thing you'll notice is we have black Times New Roman text on a white background. This is not in the builder itself the most appealing magical marketing approved form. Why are we doing this? Biggest reason is that this is ultimately going to go onto a content-rich marketing page, whether that's a marketing cloud site, whether that's something proprietary, Drupal, WordPress. We're not going to enforce a lot of the styling here in the FormAssembly form because we want it to be consistent with the rest of the content that we're going to present in that marketing context. We're going to spend tons of money on these beautiful marketing landing pages, let the CSS inherit straight down to the form, save your admin some time when you're building these out because you already put a ton of time and effort into those marketing assets, into those styles. So the form will just inherit everything. The theme itself, we just call it inherit, super easy, because we want everything to be super basic on the form. This will also help your load times. Depending on how you're publishing the form, I would say we typically like to use the publish with API option. So you'll have a single script tag in that marketing site. It'll pull in the form live. The fewer styles, the fewer stuff you have going on in the form, the faster it'll load. We've run into a couple of different compliance options and hurdles in previous implementations when the form needs to load within a certain amount of time. So we're keeping the form as lightweight and as functional as possible so that it can serve the actual information and the data that you're working with. Off the top, you'll notice the majority of this form is actually hidden. That is by design. So again, we have some pretty basic options, first, last, phone, email, and then they'll choose their campus, their degree, their program. But the real magic comes up here. So in our hidden data at the top, the first pieces are always capturing the page source, so we know exactly what page this RFI request is coming into. So we know which pages are serving, right? What pages are actually converting people to fill out an RFI. Is it on the specific program page? Is it on just a paid search click-through page? We have better information because all of these data points we are going to map back to Salesforce, both on the opportunity, on the EDU info request, but also in a custom object that we've used across a number of implementations now that we're calling an engagement. So if you think back, if you're familiar with interactions for student recruitment, very similar type utility object, where it's going to provide better context to these requesters that come in to know exactly where they're coming in from. We are then also tracking all of the possible UTM parameters that we have on the page itself. So really enabling, supercharging paid search, paid media, referral links, however you're going to market, you can have a spot to work those UTM parameters into the actual form. And I'll show the custom code that's on here. It is, quick warning, extensive, but pretty straightforward once we kind of dig through everything. The beautiful thing is whatever UTM parameters you're using, this implementation supports. How the custom code works is it'll look for those UTM fields in the form itself, go to the URL, grab the parameters if they're there, bring them into the hidden fields, and then you can map them in the submit connector just like you would anything else. A couple controlling fields here. This is just to take advantage of our native FormAssembly conditionals. So of course, we're not going to show possible degrees until they've chosen a campus, and then we're not going to show programs until they've chosen a degree level, just to keep everything intact, much better user experience. One of my favorite tricks is using a repeatable section like we have here for term, and then only repeating it out once. So what are we doing with this? We want to know what's the next term. Pretty simple, right? We don't want to have to do any sort of goofy lookup in the submit connector. We want that present on the form itself, because part of our lookups, we're going to reference that term to make sure if they choose a specific campus and a specific degree option, that the programs that they're actually requesting information for are open. So in Education Cloud, that would be your program term application timeline, the PTAT. So we can use this term to filter those options based on what's available now. You can, of course, expand that out into the future if you wanted to do more than just the next term. For this implementation, we are using that. But quick trick, if you want to find the next whatever record, make a repeatable section, pre-fill it, and then on the left here, how many times can it be repeated? 1. Your pre-fill connector runs like normal, and then it just pulls the next record. So in this case, the next successive term based on that start date, our first field here. We have a section to capture all the selected values. So this is where the custom code is going to do a little bit of heavy lifting for us to track exactly what we're choosing. So which campus, which degree, which program, and then most importantly, which learning is related to it. So we can associate that edu info request case up to the appropriate learning. Same thing, PTAT, opportunity, all of that rolls up to that learning record itself. And then most importantly, we have the learning repeatable. Here's where we're going to pull down, in our case, every active learning for the next term that is in Education Cloud. Why is this important? This is important because any admin can go into Education Cloud, whatever platform version of Salesforce you're using, turn off a checkbox, just deactivate a specific learning. So if you have new degree options moving forward and you don't want to go back and edit every single form ever, one click turns off that checkbox, it instantly disappears from all of your RFIs globally. Same thing as you bring on programs, split programs, have temporarily turn on or off various programs. This is the core of what the RFI is doing itself. You have full control in the pre-fill connector, which we'll touch on in a second, about what criteria you use. So in this case, this is literally just everything because we're giving them all campuses, all degrees, all programs. But this is the magic behind what's going to happen with our intelligent RFI. Everything else fields like you're typically used to, first, last, email, phone. And then importantly, we have 3 drop-down menus that don't have any choices in them. Here's where we're kind of pushing the boundaries of what you can and honestly should do with FormAssembly. But with the custom code, which we can dig into now, we're going to populate those values with information out of the learning repeatable. So let's go ahead and take a look, dig through everything. First section, we're going to pull down those UTM parameters. Pretty straightforward. We just go get the URL that is present at the time of load, parse everything out, put those in the hidden fields. Nothing too crazy. As we move down, here's where things get a little bit more complicated. We have a number of different functions here that are going to support how everything works. Where we're normalizing values, we're populating different options. So essentially, as the form loads and that pre-fill connector happens, once that pre-fill connector finishes, the custom code goes and looks at all the different options in those hidden fields, finds all the unique campuses, degrees, programs, and keeps a live list of them, if you will. So most importantly for campus, it'll go through everything, deduplicate, and pull those two campuses. Then as you work your way through everything, we're going to be getting those dependent records. We're going to be populating those fields. We're going to be running things right off the top. Same thing as each of those pick lists change, we're going to check to see what values are in those and then find the appropriate information, map that appropriate information, and then fire those conditionals. So let's actually see it. So the page will load, and as it does, we're pulling literally everything. Obviously, hidden information goes away. You've got first, last, email, phone, but now this campus field has multiple options. SCU recently brought in another campus. That's why we added that campus value at the top. But if I can say, I want to go to the Phoenix campus, I want to do a doctoral degree, and right now the one that's open is Doctor of Occupational Therapy. You'll notice importantly that these are still your normal pick lists, your normal selects, your normal dropdowns. For this implementation in particular, and you absolutely can do it with the type ahead FormAssembly field. We use that often across our various implementations. Wonderful functionality. For this case in particular, the client, and we get this request pretty often, wanted to keep using just the drop-down menus themselves because A, it's a little bit better mobile experience, and B, it kind of feels like an RFI. It feels like what people are used to doing. So that's why we had to take the approach of making it way more dynamic, which ultimately is a better solution for SCU. How we leverage FormAssembly in this way is a better solution because it has that normal drop-down feel to it. And then same thing, if you flip campuses, you'll see that all of these reset. The Whittier campus has more options. So if I did a professional certification, we have way more options here. So kind of your non-credit certifications, we have rolling everything into one experience for how you're requesting information. So if I just wanted to do a graduate certification, same thing here. As the user interacts with all of that data, the various fields are acting how you would expect them to act. That is partly the custom code doing its thing, and partly because we know what all of those options are. All of those already pre-filled, so we know exactly what's happening when and where. So the end product, obviously, is a form that is going to inherit that styles, not the most flashy here, but will inherit wherever you put this, font, colors, any images you want, backgrounds, heights, widths, to make the marketing team happy. And then most importantly, the submit connector itself is pretty simple. So we'll touch on how we're mapping that data in, and then I can show the prefill connector, also pretty simple. So the onus that we're putting is all on Salesforce because you have all that information. In this instance, we're using a data management tool that we developed called ElevateActual. But by all means, you can just do the full mapping here in the submit connector itself. You've got first, last, phone, email, intended program, campus, degree type. You can do all sorts of conditionals because that's just text in fields, right? We have those selected values hidden section. So just as we map in all of these terms, we hard code some information like the destination, the source, FormAssembly. So we want to know which forms are working. It's an RFI process, and then we have chosen degree levels. We can map in that record ID as well. So you're not doing anything too crazy on the submit connector, which makes this way more scalable. As you build this out, as you change the prefill parameters to actually have different information, so in this case, we're just looking up all active learnings, you can clone this process very easily and say, we just want the College of Business offerings. We just want our non-credit professional certifications to be in here as well. Here's where you tweak that criteria in the learning. You can add in that PTAT filter as well. So same thing with our academic term. If you wanted to put time boxes around it, as long as those learning records ultimately get into that hidden section, here's where you can use the power of the FormAssembly prefill connector to set truly whatever parameters you want. So you could do it based on X number of days before the next term and prioritize and push certain programs to the top of the list, or just sort alphabetically. you have kind of full control over everything here. So we're taking what seems to be a pretty straightforward, normal feature of FormAssembly and turning it around to serve how the form itself is going to be a robust user experience. So we're having FormAssembly do what it does best, which is transact with Salesforce, let us build and layer on any of that custom code. And then in the end, we get a really clean, simple user experience so that A, it's replicable across all those marketing landing pages. And then B, we can do kind of whatever we want with it. As I mentioned off the top with the different versions that we have kind of the 3-layer, 2-layer, and then single layer. So very similar to having the campus control the degree, control the program. If you already have a campus specific or you don't have multiple campuses, you can just as easily have the degree control the program. Or if you're on a degree site already, a degree landing page, say an undergraduate business in that example, this one's just going to pull a program. Keep it simple. So we have a very similar implementation, but we know exactly what's going to happen. So we're already filtering based on everything there, and then they just have a program, a specialization, a concentration, however you want to break that taxonomy out. So that way we're focusing on scaling everything beyond just building an individual RFI form for literally every single page. We're capturing all RFI, the entire top of funnel with just 3 specific forms, and then it's going to inherit some of those parameters based on the page that it's on. So we know the context around which people are submitting requests to our institution, we know where they're coming from, and we know what they're interested in, and using FormAssembly to leverage all of that information to the best of its ability. All right. As the questions come in, and please definitely use that question window to submit more questions. We'll try to get to as many as we have time for here. We only have a couple more minutes before I have to toss it back to Josh. But first question that we always get is, which version of FormAssembly do we recommend? Do we need for this? What is the prerequisite? The true prerequisites to doing this are both the prefill and submit connectors. You'll want the dynamic prefill, the type ahead for other implementations. So we always see everyone come into FormAssembly team or above. Typically, team is a good starting point. Get a couple admins in there, a couple form builders, get your feet wet with FormAssembly, really understand what's happening and take advantage of the workflows and everything else that we're doing in FormAssembly, understand the product, and then kind of expand that license count. Team is a really good starting place since you can always add more users. You have your own instance. That's the instance that SCU has here that we're building on. So definitely recommend FormAssembly team. Question on the custom code. You definitely don't need to be, I'll say you don't need to be a developer to really work with everything here. How I wrote this is in jQuery, so JavaScript library. There are a number of different ways to slice it here. The nice thing is once we've got this set up and it's running, this code is pretty optimized to not use any hard-coded form field IDs, form IDs itself. It does a lot of those gets dynamically off the top. Like you'll see here, finding the hidden section ID, it's just a section that has hidden in it. So as long as there's a section called hidden data or even just hidden, it'll find everything. So in cloning this out for different use cases, so from the scalability perspective, we really wanted to focus on not having admins go in and edit code. That's where you are going to introduce the most, I wouldn't say errors, but error potential in everything there. So all the custom code as written will just scale as you clone out the form, change the prefill parameters, anything there. So no hard-coded IDs anywhere in the custom code itself. It took a very long time to get there, but we are finally there. Another good question on styling. You absolutely can use the FormAssembly theme builder. We love the theme builder. It's great. So if we look at, like some of the themes here, you have the full custom CSS available. We have taken literally everything out. You get some weird behavior when you do that, so be prepared. This is the experts only skiing warning, right? Like danger is ahead if you do this. But yeah, by all means, you can definitely just use any of the standard themes, apply your logos, your colors, everything to it. You don't have to use this inherit type method that we're doing here. And yeah, so that way you can just use a normal theming. This absolutely can operate standalone. Does not have to be embedded in a marketing page. You can just drive traffic, even UTM traffic here as well. Then your page source that we have here will just be the FormAssembly form, which is also valuable because then you know which form it's coming in as well, depending on how you're post-processing everything. Yeah, I see another question here about that submit connector. Kind of zoom past that first time. But yeah, we are using that data processing custom solution, Elevate Data. But just like you have in any old submit connector, you can upsert a person account, upsert an EDU info request, upsert opportunity, case, all that good stuff. Normal submit connector behavior is available. Since all that data is just going to be fields in your form, you're going to be good to go here. And then lastly, just have a couple minutes left. We'll jump back to our slides, working through any of our questions. Keep them coming. I'm going to try my best to answer them in the chat right after. Send them on LinkedIn, send them through Josh. Also wanted to point out available in the resources. As we touched on a little bit earlier, we've seen a lot of uptick in commerce implementations, commerce on core specifically, to work alongside FormAssembly and Education Cloud. We do have a new commerce accelerator as a way to leverage proper top of funnel activity like you saw today, building out the Education Cloud platform. That link is available in the chat here. It's kind of a logical extension to recruitment. We've seen a lot of our live builds, actually the best funnel generator for that single course purchase, non-degree, certificate, continuing education, executive ed, typically come through the RFIs. So learners that fill out the RFI to get degree information and then really need to actually are a better fit for a specific course or a series of 3 courses to kind of deflect that, still capture revenue for the institution. So we have a new commerce accelerator available as well. Reach out about any questions there. Yeah, would love to connect with you guys, continue the conversation on LinkedIn, and do some more demos. Thanks, everyone. And I'll toss it back to Josh.
As always, always getting us right up to the end there, Peter. Appreciate you, gang. I know there's a couple more questions. I will pass those over via email to Peter. He may follow up with you. I do want to get us on to our next session. Thank you so much for attending this one, and I'll see you in the next one.